right, so bring this meeting to order. We'll put you at the beginning so you don't have to, hang out to the bitter end. I don't see any members of the public here. We never get any members of the public. I'm going to wait to approve the minutes. I'm just going to let him do his thing because I don't want to keep you. All right, so our biggest questions for you as the facilities manager is, in Harwich, we don't really have any specific job or a position whose job it is to keep track of all of our energy issues. So they lean on you, right?
Yeah, I kind of self-appointed myself.
Self-appointed. Okay, so well then you're the person that we want to speak to. So I talked to Margaret, and she sent some graphs that are really hard for us to decipher.
I printed up this is as of 12 o'clock.
Wow, up to date.
That's for us?
Yeah.
Well, it can be.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be able to answer any questions off of it.
So I think that before we ask you questions,
Yes.
I think if you could just give us an overview of our situation energy-wise. You can talk about a little bit about green communities and what's happening there, and a little bit about like the future. I did send everybody that article about the money that is coming to us from the state. So anyway,
one of the emphasis I think should really be, when is the town going to start using electric vehicles? Because everybody else is going to, all the other towns.
well, we'll come back to that, Charlie. Yeah, we're going to come back to
And I
that.
think we need to have that in our plan if we don't have it already.
Right.
So we've got to start thinking about the cost, the total cost, because we can get the electric power from the landfill up here, and the maintenance is a lot less, and the total cost in the vehicle needs to be included in there, not just the initial cost.
Right.
I'll
We'll
touch
come
on
back to that, Charlie. So just give us, why don't you,
I would like to add that I think you could help us. And we could work together.
That's what I
Yeah.
would like to do.
Because we are, theoretical. You're hands-on. So
Okay.
your input, your experience is critical.
and you could also give us some, like she was saying, you could give us some ideas of where we could help. Right,
Yes.
so let's listen to Sean and see what he has
And
to
then
say.
I'll have a couple more questions. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just briefly, my history, I grew up here on the Cape, and I went to Cape Cod Tech and graduated many years ago in HVAC. So that's my passion. I know a lot more about other utility items because I joined the Navy. I was in the Navy Seabees construction for 30 years. After my retirement, my first job was in energy conservation in the DPW for the base. That's before I moved back to the Cape. So moving back to the Cape, I saw this position. I knew this is what I had done for 30 plus years. I applied, was hired, and one of the first things I started looking at was potential energy reduction because we had a lot of high usage items on the bay, all over the town. In 2006, I believe, going through Cape Light Compact, we had done, and if you've been on the board this long, you remember the Peregrine Project?
Yes.
Where Peregrine Company came in. They're part of the Mass Energy Insight, and they did an assessment of all the town buildings, and they came up with some recommendations for improvements. Looking for funding for some of that, we went through Cape Light Compact, and it also is what supported us becoming a green community. So the green communities, we're on our third year now, and I think in your email you were asking, because you had heard, meeting the 20% reduction.
Right, that's part of being a green community.
Yes. I said even before we applied that I felt with everything that we had already done, we'd already picked all the easy pickings. We'd already done all the easy things. I said it's going to be very difficult for us to reduce our energy footprint in 5 years, which is what the goal was. It was reiterated to me it's a goal, it's not a requirement, but we should try to attain it. We've done so in the buildings, and with the graph that was printed out for you, you can see where our building footprint has been reduced. As you mentioned, the one area that we have not reduced, and it's gonna be a long road for us to reduce it, and that's in our vehicles. Our gas usage and our diesel usage, that's the biggest footprint that we have, carbon footprint.
In line with that, as I say, I took this course in professional engineering, and you have to figure the total cost of something. In an electric vehicle, there may not be any oil change, so you don't have any oil change. You don't have the maintenance for that. You don't have, if the town is supplying all the power with the dump up here, where the solar photovoltaics are, they get the electric power free, so you don't have a cost of gasoline. And you can figure all these things over the total life of the vehicle, and it may come out to be an advantage to think about it if you include all the extra stuff over the life of the vehicle.
Right, and there are some, we'll talk about that, because there are some grant programs that are currently open that we can, because I emailed DEP, and they said that it's open, you can apply. Anyway, go on.
So, Green Communities, I work extremely closely with Margaret Song. And in doing so, that's why anytime you've asked her a question, she comes back to me and says, what do you think? How do you want me to answer it?
Yeah.
Great working relationship. I don't want to strain that by having too many people
Right,
going to
that's
her.
why, and I'm on the board, Kids Like Compact, so,
Yeah, she's phenomenal.
I've worked with Margaret.
Yeah, I love working with her.
Yeah.
But she is my source of information.
Mm-hmm.
And with her, I used her contractor, Rise Engineering.
Mm-hmm.
And we have two, representatives from Rise that works for the municipalities. One is for the mechanical side and the other is for the electrical side. Great working relationship there. So that's how we've derived up our projects. With the Green Communities, we had to come up with our plan. So far, we've done a number of the things off of the initial plan, the reduction plan. We're continuing on with large project number 3, and that is with the community center, and that's in development stages right now. I was hoping to get the boilers started.
I mean, like we're
this
changing
fall.
out the HVAC and
Yeah,
then.
this is the boilers first, and then the cooling system in the spring. I think because of the time frame of getting the specs written, we may not get the boilers done before
Are you
this
looking at
winter.
heat pumps at all, or?
No, actually, it's funny that you asked that. This is the last project to be approved in the state of Massachusetts, I was told, to go gas for a high-efficiency gas boilers. What they're looking at now is all VRF systems.
And do you think that it is wise for us to continue down the gas?
On this
path?
project, absolutely.
Why, can you tell us why?
Because to go to a VRF system, variable refrigerant flow, you would have to reduct the whole building. And it would become a massive undertaking compared to just putting in new coils in the existing air handling units.
It's gas now, right?
It is gas. So with our existing air handling units, we've already done energy upgrades to it. So it is running efficiently for what it is right now, and that is it has drives for their motors. It has a energy computer system where we set and we control all the temperatures and the time frames it's going to be there. All that's done by me. I've got it done on almost all the town buildings.
So
But
you would say it is sophisticated within its current being gas?
yes.
Okay.
It is already a good efficient system. Changing the gas boiler out for a high efficiency gas boiler is gaining us some more efficiencies. It'll reduce our carbon footprint a little, not as much as if we went to a VRF system, but the cost and the timeline to get this done is significantly less.
What's the average lifespan of a system like that?
The boiler, the 20 years.
20 years?
Yeah.
Because we're going net zero by 2050, that's the state goal. And I keep telling the selectmen, it's like, whatever the state decides to do, it eventually, will roll downhill.
Oh, but
Yeah.
I agree, but
Yeah.
we need to improve our infrastructure before we're gonna get there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the state can mandate it, but we've got to
Right.
increase our power.
So at least we're going more efficient
Yes.
with that.
For that, it is, if it wasn't more efficient, it wouldn't have been approved.
Approved, yeah.
So, but it is the last one.
And we're getting some money for that, right? I mean, the green.
Yeah, that one is,
Yeah.
we're getting $160,952.
How much, what, like, roughly, what percent of the whole project is?
That's about 2/3.
2/3, all right, so that's a good
What was the
thing.
number?
150.
160,952?
That's what you're getting from the state?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's about 2/3 of the total cost of upgrading the boilers.
That's our grant.
Yeah.
The last grant we had, which was our initial grant, was for 152,910.
And where does the rest come from?
It's green
taxes?
communities.
That is green communities, and the rest comes from the taxpayers, and we voted on this in town meeting in May.
Right. That was one of the advantages to becoming a green community. It opened up a pool of money that is not available unless you go through the green communities
Boy,
thing.
that's
So,
If you do all these projects that you've got on here, how much are we gonna miss the 20% thing?
It's,
I mean, 2% or 1% or what?
no, it's a significant amount. I couldn't tell you exactly.
Half of it?
But we've reduced about 9% right now from our baseline. We've got a long way to go, and we're not gonna get there with buildings.
no, no.
Buildings are already there, they're already efficient.
Right, right.
This is what I'm talking to Rise Engineering.
So maybe we're at 50% level. If 20% is a reduction and we're at 9 or 10% now, then we need to come up with the other 10%, and we can't do it with the buildings,
Right,
basically.
exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
Did we get to claim the high school solar on?
No.
Okay, so that's me, because
That's Monomoy.
That's Monomoy. But we did get to claim Cranberry Valley?
yes,
Okay.
and that was in our report.
As a savings, when Cranberry Valley solar, put up their solar panels, we could claim it as energy efficiency going towards our 20%. But we couldn't claim Monomoy.
Why can't we claim Monomoy?
Because Monomoy is a school district. It doesn't belong just to Harwich.
We'll claim our portion of it.
I don't know. It doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
Don't we have 50% in it?
We don't pay the bills, they do.
yeah. So anyway, it's just the way it's set up, bureaucratically speaking. All right, so we've done a pretty good job with our buildings, but we've kind of maxed out, at least at this moment in time, the next step for Harwich, sometime in the future, is to try to start putting in like heat pumps. I mean, I think that's where everybody's going to go. I mean, you're saying 20 years from now.
That's, you gotta take each building as
Yeah.
when it's ending its useful life. You don't replace
Right,
the
right.
boiler at
Oh, exactly.
10 years when
Right,
it's gonna
right.
go another 10.
But that's why I said, you're talking about a brand new one, you can expect about 20 years out of it. I'm suspecting that there are other buildings in the town, municipal buildings, whose systems are older than that,
Yes.
and will probably require upgrading in the next 5 or 10 years, maybe.
Not many.
Not many?
No, because since I've been here,
Right,
we've
we've-
replaced with high-efficiency boilers. The
Most
new
of them,
high-efficiency
yeah.
boilers is Fire Station 1, Fire Station 2, the library, town hall, DPW. All those are fairly new, high-efficiency
Right.
boilers that are getting us
Okay.
maximum
All right.
savings
So,
there.
so we're pretty much set for the next 20 years as far as that goes.
And that's all gas.
All gas.
Have we got the harbor master buildings all included in the energy savings?
Oh, absolutely. The Harbor Master building does okay in savings. It is a VRF system, and the problem that you have with VRF, it doesn't always work in very cold weather, as our Harbor Master found out last winter. He said, it's not putting out any heat. It's 50 degrees in I said, well, it's doing the best it can. It's like the Star Trek, Jim, give me all you can. It's just what, it couldn't do it.
I know another engineer that I used, and he was so mad at the oil companies when they had one of these oil embargoes that he replaced everything with his heat pump, and this is back in the 80s or so, and he never liked the heat pump because it was never warm enough.
And now, technology has gone,
Yeah, it has advanced.
we
yeah.
can pull heat out of the air temperature, and even his is designed to pull heat up to.
But it's not ground source though.
No, no,
All
no.
right, so see,
Sub-zero.
that's the next,
Actually, ground source I did in 1977
Mhm.
on Cape Cod, and I really thought it was gonna take off, and never did.
yeah, well, it's so expensive.
So
And-
people who have heat pumps are a little cold in winter?
If they're depending only on their heat pump. And it depends on whether they have the one that pulls the heat out of the air versus ground source heat pump, which is you send a pipe down into the ground where the temperature just stays 50 degrees all the time. And, you know, that's a whole different system, but as you can probably imagine, it's more expensive because you get all that under the ground infrastructure that you've got to deal with. All right, so we okay with buildings?
Yep.
Buildings are in good shape. Unfortunately, we're kind of tied to a fossil fuel for the next 20 years. Things can change. If the cost of gas gets ridiculous,
You're
then...
talking about natural gas, aren't you?
Right, natural gas. If the cost of natural gas gets crazy, and it could,
Of course.
then the cost benefit of switching to a different system looks better.
Absolutely.
Right. Right now, gas still,
But electricity's gone up, like,
yeah.
I just got my electric bill today.
Yeah.
30%.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons for that.
That's
So,
all right.
let me move
All
on.
right,
And
move on.
I talked to our vehicle maintenance manager and Lincoln Hooper, the DPW director of other vehicles. I knew that was an interest because of your
Yep.
email.
Mhm.
The vehicles, currently, we have a vehicle replacement plan. And we have a number of vehicles that are on our list that was identified to green communities when we became green communities. And the majority of the vehicles in the town are exempt. They're exempt from going electric.
Because they're trucks or they're
Ve-
vans or they're...
emergency vehicles.
Right, and emergency vehicles.
All
Right.
considered emergency
Right.
vehicles, so.
Fire.
Fire,
trucks,
police,
yeah,
DPW,
yeah.
and water.
Right.
So with all those exempt, the non-exempt ones are the ones that you see out here.
Right.
The thing that you see out here is all these are hand-me-downs.
Mhm.
So as a police vehicle
Right.
ends its useful life, it is given to a vehicle that has reached the end of its
Right.
useful life, and it is used by the office spaces here. If it is the desire of this committee to see electric vehicles, that is the option, that is the focal point I
Right.
would recommend to talk to the administration office and the Board of Selectmen of, if we have to move forward, this is our target, our audience.
Right, right. And I think that if the town, even if it's just 2 or 3 vehicles, it sets a message, you know, it sets a tone, you know, that, you know, it's a visual, something that people can see. I know the Chamber of Commerce is very, very interested in trying to get charging stations in the municipal parking lots. Because there are people now, there's a lot of people that have electric cars. And they're finding out that when people are looking like where to vacation, if they're coming in an electric car, they want to come where they can charge easily.
Absolutely. I'm not sure if you recall, but right before COVID hit, Cape Light was looking for places to put charging stations.
Yeah.
So I sent it to the interim administrator, who forwarded it to Griffin, who forwarded it to you
Yeah.
for recommendations. We missed the target, it was never done. But my question to now administrator was, this is a great opportunity, it's needed by the public. The question is who's gonna pay for the electricity and/or how do we
Yeah.
meter it? So they
Yeah.
can put a credit card in for a 20-minute charge.
Yeah, and those come that way.
What about
you
some
know,
of these
I mean-
vehicles that are exempt? I mean, it seems like some of these ambulances sit in the garage for hours at a time, and it seems like the Teslas are very fast acceleration type of vehicles. If they're concerned about catching somebody, they don't seem. There must be some way to get to these electric
But
vehicles.
they're just starting to look at light trucks and larger trucks. For example, you know, the F-150, the Ford F-150, they just came out with an electric version of that. It's going to be a while before larger, heavier, more energy-intensive vehicles.
I would think ultimately that there shouldn't be any exemptions.
Well, they may, and it may not.
I
Like,
mean, a fire truck, how often is it used? If it's got a full charge on it, it can go 50 miles an hour to get to a fire and then sit there for a couple hours and come back and get recharged again. Why can't it be excused from that?
it's, when they come out with reliable replacements that are electric, then people will start looking at them. But when it comes to safety, it's a non-starter for most people to use anything that they view as experimental, you know.
Yeah,
So
but electrics are super safe and super fast.
Until the battery
And
explodes, but,
until the battery
Right,
explodes,
yeah.
until the power goes out,
right.
and you're out plowing for 12 hours and your
Right,
battery
right,
dies,
right.
and you
So
can't recharge
I
it.
think that.
You gotta shut down your plowing
No, but
operations,
You have to have the facility to charge it
Yeah.
at the parking station.
but it takes time as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
And during the middle of a
Yes,
snowstorm,
Yeah, that takes,
Yeah.
until they put all that together, it takes time.
Right.
But I want to revisit your topic of those cars that
Yes,
are no longer, they don't serve any purpose and they come here and are used by the staff here.
all right,
Does
so.
anybody keep a record of what is the cost of that?
absolutely.
Mhm.
That's our vehicle maintenance manager.
And do we know if that is?
Massive amounts of savings compared to buying new replacement vehicles for here.
Okay, okay.
You have to replace the safety vehicles,
Right,
the emergency vehicles.
Mhm.
Then when they reach a certain mileage, the end of their life for the safety office, they're still usable by, you know, inspectors for the building department or health.
Yeah.
So rather than disposing of it, it is turned down to the next
Right.
needed vehicle here,
Yeah.
and the savings is a lot of money.
but you could sell them
Okay.
if you wanted to get electric vehicles for the town. Like, if a cop car comes out of, service, instead of just giving it to the town, it wouldn't be like they get nothing out of it, they could sell it.
Correct.
So they get something out of it,
That's true.
and then they're not doing the maintenance on it. So, I don't know if you guys looked at these, it's called Mass EVIP. It's a rolling grant that is for municipalities and fleets I emailed them and they are,
Did you send it to us?
that's the same one I sent you before.
But you sent it yesterday?
No, I sent you this a couple of months ago. And I talked to Joe Powers, and he seemed very interested, and they said, oh, we'd like to do it, but it's like, we have nobody, we are just a committee. We are not authorized to fill out grants in the town's name. We can't, we don't have that kind of authorization. So we could help for sure, but, we would need somebody, a point person in town that we could work with to see what we can get
Yeah.
in the form
What
of
can we
money.
implement?
Right,
Yeah.
it's not
Because
gonna
without
be,
money, we cannot implement.
Right.
I would say this, what I'm looking at, would be working directly with the administration office.
okay,
And
In other words,
they
no
would
powers?
look at engineering and maybe going out with an engineering contract to
Mhm.
develop some information. And
You're
that's-
talking about Joe Powers?
Yes.
Okay.
So I'm sure he'd go to Lincoln Hooper and Collins and ask for their input.
And I know we already have one charging station here.
Yeah.
They just put another one, I think, up at the.
It's not really a
Harvard
charging
Ride.
station, it's just it's an outlet, basically,
Oh.
for a hybrid that we had.
So it's not even a charging station.
Not really, no.
Okay.
It's just an outlet from our 30 amp breaker from the basement. A charging station, the way I see it, is exactly what
Yeah, right.
Cape Light is offering, and that's
There's
the way we should.
level 2 and level 3 charging stations. A level 3, you theoretically can charge a car back up in a half an hour.
So you're saying that Joe's the one that we need to invite him to.
You're right. You're right.
Yeah.
And with you maybe also.
Or at least,
Phenomenal.
we would give you the heads up so that if somebody
Yeah.
asked you about it, you would not be, you know what's
Sure.
coming,
And can I have this?
Absolutely.
This
yeah.
copy? I'll bring this back to Kyle,
Yep,
just to see his
yeah.
thoughts.
And if you go to their website, the Mass EVIP website, and
Mhm.
you can apply online. So you can take a look at the application and see what's necessary.
Yeah.
Didn't President Biden have some legislation passed that gives you incentives for electric
Yeah,
vehicles?
but most of those are not. Most of those are for personal cars, not for municipal cars. You got to. There's two different tracks I found out when it comes to grants and things. It's like you personally could apply for a grant to get money off of a car that you bought, or you could, or I could. But if you're talking about town, the town has to go through the Massachusetts Department of Energy and use their money, because they have set aside money for this. I mean, there's a chunk of money in there for exactly what we're talking about, for municipal like towns to buy charging stations and to buy electric cars for their fleet. I don't think you're ever going to find a program that doesn't require that the town put skin in the game. We're not talking about 100%, oh, we'll give you an electric car. They're always going to want the town to commit some money to it. And so that's the rub here, it's like, because money, of course, it takes forever to get money encumbered, because you got to go to a town meeting or whatever, and so.
Ultimately, in 2035, GM is going to all electric vehicles,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
someday the town is going to have to buy electric vehicles because they're not going to be able to buy
California
gasoline.
won't even let you buy a gas car after 2030, it's coming down the pike, it's just, and I just, as this committee, because this is our sort of our charge, we don't want the town to be caught off guard. We don't want the town to be late to the game and end up missing out on money or grants or, stuff that's, getting handed out. We need to be in line to get that.
Well, we listen to these other committees, like Cape Martha's Vineyard out there. They're going to electric buses and all that because it's a problem for them to bring gasoline out to that island. So that they want to electrify everything out there, and they're moving way ahead to do all that. I don't know if you're aware of that, but.
No, not my forte.
Well, I know,
I don't do the
but
vehicles.
they are.
Yeah, right, you do buildings, yeah. So, so I guess we need to talk to Joe Powers, and then Joe Powers could talk to Link.
That's my recommendation
What
as
is
a
the name
start.
of the guy who's in charge of vehicles?
Well, Lincoln Hooper's the DPW director.
What?
Lincoln,
Lincoln, like
like
car.
Abraham.
Yes,
I think he's the guy,
Hooper.
yes.
Jacqueline, he's the guy you asked the question at the town meeting.
That's what I'm thinking, yeah.
She asked him when they're going to start to buy electric vehicles at the town meeting, and he said they didn't know anything about it. Or
They
like
hadn't looked into.
Yeah. They've discussed it. I know this because as basically the Korean Communities rep,
Right.
that's part of our
Right.
package, part of our report. And I've talked to Kyle, extensively on, all right, what are the reasons, and especially before coming here. I know that there's interest. Why are we not moving forward? And it is the mechanics, it's the maintenance, it's all these things, but most importantly, it is the expense.
Right.
It's the
And
initial expense.
I'm finding, I think that's a little disingenuous because I do believe that, if, like Charlie was saying, these are old cars, and, maybe it's job security. I mean, if we have in-house mechanics, if we go to an electric, that's less that they would have to do. I mean, and, so maybe it's job security, I don't
Oh,
know.
they'd
Well,
still be,
But
It's
do
like-
the other things.
no, they'd still be maintaining the electric vehicles.
Yeah, but there's
as
not a
well.
lot to maintain an
They
electric. You have
don't
one.
need anything.
Yeah, I mean,
The
she
the
runs
New York
it all.
State Thruway doesn't go to automatic toll collection because they don't want to lay off all the toll collectors, so they have to keep handling cards in there. Because Massachusetts has already gone to this, you could go
Right,
through the
right. The
toll.
point being is that you can sell those cars, all right? So
Yes.
you have a car coming off the police doesn't need it anymore, sell it. They have auctions everywhere, for excess cars and things. So yeah, you're not getting zero from it. You're getting rid of it. You're getting rid of all the maintenance issues. You're getting rid of, because these cars are going to, if you've ever owned an older car, that you keep putting more and more and more into them, as they age. So anyway, so I think that is, I'm not buying that as 100% is the thing that prevents us from getting electric vehicles, is because it's too expensive.
Yeah, and the other
Yeah.
thing is that if you wait and wait and wait, there will be a point where you don't get spare parts, you cannot sell it. So.
Yeah, so the deeper we get, it's kind of like going, it's kind of like, not going for heat pumps or that type of thing. There will come a time, not today, but there will come a time where you can't find replacement parts for gas.
Absolutely,
Stuff,
and there'll become a time
and-
when technology advances, and
But I don't think it's like 50 years from now. I think it's like 10 years from now.
that's what they're hoping.
And I think that, these little towns often bear the brunt of,
So, speaking of which,
yeah.
Yeah, you said you wanted to know
Yeah.
what I do and
Yep,
how
yep.
you could help me
Mhm.
and I pretty much take care of the buildings.
Yep, yep.
I'm satisfied that I think I've got that, and if I ever need your help, I could reach out.
Okay,
Or if you can
yeah.
see an area that you think, you know,
And you've got
needs some
Margaret.
attention, yeah. Yeah, she's the best, so, but where I see this board,
Mhm.
and I mentioned this before to Larry, I think his name is Larry.
Larry Cole,
Yes.
yeah.
What's Larry called?
He used to be up that chair of this board for years and years.
Oh,
yeah.
I see, okay.
And what I mentioned is, what I see this board is doing is community outreach,
Yeah.
community
We've talked about
education,
that, yeah.
getting the information out there to the community.
Like
For
what?
example, here's one right here.
Yep, yep. Take any
So
example.
Terrence from Cape Light Compact sent me this yesterday. And they will be in Harwich on October 18th to the 20th to meet with businesses about ways to save energy, lowering operating costs and
Main
efficient.
streets.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I think getting this information out to all the businesses will tell them, hey, we got free LED lighting for you. Just come down here and sign up.
They don't even have to go anywhere. They're gonna walk down the street and give them up.
So
So they will
I printed
teach
that out.
us,
No, this is a program that Cape Light Compact is just gonna go up and down and visit businesses and offer businesses, you know, just random energy audits, basically.
businesses.
Businesses only.
Businesses.
This is called main.
So you have the residential side of Rise where they'll
Yeah.
come into your home and say.
I did it
Yeah.
all.
Yep.
Yeah, we've done
This
everything.
is for the residents. Now,
Right.
I've done it for our buildings, municipal
right.
buildings.
Oh, okay.
And they
But
did
this is
this,
for-
they did this, I want to say 2 years ago in Harwich. Cindy, the head of the
Cindy Williams.
Williams Chamber of Commerce, she's the one that sort of orchestrates this with,
Mhm.
who Cape Light Compact is, Lindsay? Maybe? Anyway, so, you know, they've already sent information out to the businesses. So Cape Light Compact has.
Well, what we need is a budget so that we could put ads in the Harwich Chronicle or something so they could notify businesses about stuff like that. If we had at least an
Well,
advertising
yeah.
budget to advertise for stuff.
Businesses know about this because Cindy already told them, because they were already
Then who are
contacted.
we telling then?
The businesses, because this is a business-only program.
But you said the businesses already know about it.
Yes, so the
So
Chamber of
who-
Commerce has already sent out
Who
all the
are
information.
we telling then if they already know about it?
Well, I'm saying that this is a good program,
Yeah.
but I'm saying, I think this particular program, I think is pretty well covered as far as like
Yeah.
getting the,
I wasn't aware, so I
Yeah,
thought that would
yeah.
be a great thing
yeah.
for outreach.
But as far, you know, we could definitely do more to encourage residents
Yeah, that's.
to
what
do
I
it,
think.
because I'm also on the board of Cape Light Compact, and you would be, maybe you wouldn't be surprised, but I'm always surprised when they tell me that there still are so many people that have not done it and refuse to do it, even though it's free.
And the reasons for refusing are?
There's a
Fear,
lot,
financial?
people don't want people in their house. People just don't believe in it, you know? They like everything the way it is, they don't want anybody telling them what to do. You know, so, anyway, there's a lot of reasons. So that we could help with definitely. I think we're trying to get a series of videos on Channel 18 that are really excellent videos that explain, there are 3 of them, right? That explain the solar, heat pumps, and electric cars, right?
Right.
Is that the, and I guess Roseanne's been having trouble connecting with.
We're trying to educate the public through the
Yeah.
Channel 18. We want them
That's
to.
awesome.
I listened to all these videos. It was done by Dick Elkin up in Eastham up there, and he did an excellent job of explaining. He showed an example about a forced change that people have. He said he showed a picture of Manhattan in 1900 on this Broadway, and there was 100 horse and buggies in one vehicle, and then in 1913 there was 100 vehicles in one buggy. And it was forced radical
So
change. Now, you can imagine the people in 1900 worrying about driving a gasoline vehicle down the road because there's no gasoline station. So they got to take a horse with them in case they run out of gas. But that's the same kind of thinking that people have nowadays with electric vehicles.
Right.
Is that they're afraid to get there because they don't think they are there.
Right.
But I read an article about a guy drove all the way from Massachusetts to San Diego. He plotted out where all these level 2 or level 3 charging stations were, and he planned to have his lunch at the time when he was charging the car. And he took him 2 weeks to get out there, but he was able to do it by with a Tesla type of vehicle,
With
get all the way out there.
rudimentary-
We are beyond that point,
Yeah.
because the Tesla tells you exactly where the charging stations are. You don't have to do the job, they do it for you.
But anyway, the point being is that I agree with you. I think we, probably the best thing we can do is to try to get some more outreach stuff out there. Like I said, Roseanne has not been able to connect.
She hasn't succeeded, but she will eventually.
She will eventually, and they will go out there, so that's one thing, and I
We
think.
will have to think of the next,
Right.
you can maybe give us
Right, and we will.
an idea.
We will, I think that, maybe now that COVID seems to have calmed down a little bit, that maybe we could offer, education programs at the community center, come up with just little programs to help people, like we said, reading your electric bill. Half the people don't even know how to read their electric bill, stuff like that.
Well, and this video we're talking about, we can show it and re-show it and
Mhm.
re-show it because it's
Yeah.
I think
phenomenally
that's a great
well
idea.
put together,
Yeah.
piece of education in a very, very accessible way. Would you say that, Charlie?
Yes.
Anybody can be interested and benefit from it.
They're relatively short.
We're showing them why we need to do this, exactly why. That's the whole.
So before we let you go,
Yes. So
you don't know anything about this?
I do know
Okay.
a little bit. So
Okay.
I asked Lincoln Cooper,
Mhm.
what do you know about this? Because it's roads.
Right.
And I don't do roads, I do facilities, so I had
Right,
never heard of it.
Right.
So we called Steve Tupper from the commission, Cape Cod Commission.
Mhm.
That's who's doing this job.
Steve Tupper?
Well, Steve Tupper is not the person who's doing it, it's just a point of contact
yeah.
that Lincoln had. He was going to send me an email before this meeting, and
Yeah.
I never received it.
But it's basically, the Cape Cod Commission is doing the nitty gritty.
They're doing it, and it
yeah.
is mainly for drainage and road,
Elevation.
coastal road
Yeah.
elevations.
Yep. And that was the first batch of money. That's a 205,000, which doesn't go very far.
But it covered, the next batch was for the other towns that weren't included in the round. That's what he told me.
This is for
Because it
addressing
seems, okay.
low-lying roads.
Yes.
Yeah.
This
Coastal
is
roads.
crazy.
Did you
Oh,
see that TV on Providence where they had these underpasses and all, they were completely flooded and the traffic was completely stopped on, I think it was 95 there, or 195.
Right.
Do we have any roads that, you don't know, I guess?
Well,
Again,
that road, 124 by Long Pond, remember they tried to fix that road and everybody had a heart attack and
Yes.
it got stopped because the residents didn't want them to futz
To
around
fix
with the
it.
road. But there are other, I think they will find some place to
I don't think
fix.
they mean roads near the pond, I think they mean near the ocean, don't they?
Well, I think they mean anywhere where you get flooding.
Oh, okay.
Because you don't have to be near the ocean to get flooded.
Absolutely, that's my reading.
Yeah,
Anywhere
yeah.
where it's necessary.
Yeah.
You said the name of the guy is Steve Tupper?
Well, that was our point of
Well,
contact. He is
it's-
not in charge of this project. He was going to email me the person's name.
Oh, exactly.
If I get that email, I will forward it to
Send it
you.
to me and I'll make sure everybody gets it. It's Cape Cod Commission, so we've talked about this before. They came up with a rather expansive climate change adaptation mitigation program.
Yes.
So
They
this must be.
specifically mention Harwich in there, don't they?
Yep, Harwich, yep, and they mentioned it twice.
And so if they, I guess if you don't take advantage of it, some other town gets it.
Well, I'm
this
assuming we
is all
took
this
the
money. Yeah, we have the money,
Yeah,
and it's for an assessment.
yeah.
So it's not for doing anything
Oh,
to
it's
the
not for doing
road.
the
The
road.
assessment
It's to
is
assess.
so
It's the
important.
first step.
Mhm,
First
yeah.
step. So
Oh,
And
of
identify these places that get flooded out.
Yeah.
And so as far as, I know you,
I'm
Town of Orleans.
here for you.
They've been pretty proactive in their adaptation to climate change in that they have to manage Nauset Beach. And Nauset Beach is a highly erosional beach, we all lost leaves, We're planning, they redid that so you could have food trucks instead of a permanent building, that's an adaptation, to that. They have their harbor master quarters there. They already have plans for knocking that down and moving that to a different place. So basically, they're retreating from Nauset Beach. They're taking their infrastructure away. And they're trying to do it before it becomes an emergency. So they're trying to do it before the building is knocked down by a storm, so they're, now, we have 3 harbors. Do you know if anybody has studied I know you can look at maps and things, but have we specifically studied our harbors when it comes to what happens when sea level rises a half a foot,
I can't answer that
Okay.
specifically, but in general, I can tell you that a study of sort was done when we did Sacritucket,
Okay.
because we redid all the docks out there,
Right.
and they had to know the levels that they would rise to and fall to.
Right.
But specifically, that would be a good question for John,
Yeah.
the harbor master.
Okay, yeah. And then who's in charge of beaches? Because I know we have a ton of beaches. We don't have a lot of infrastructure there, but we do have parking lots there, and we do have bathhouses there. And it just,
That would be DPW for the
DPW?
maintenance and repairs of the
Okay.
bathhouses and the parking
yeah,
lots.
okay.
The overall rec is responsible for the areas, so
Mhm.
they might identify something
Right,
before
right,
us.
Right.
But
So
if,
that would be you.
yes, oh yes, I do all the bathrooms, all
Yeah.
the structural repairs.
So there is a kind of an overlap between
Yeah.
issues caused
It's a
by,
small town.
low-lying roads and little facilities.
Sure. We haven't seen any evidence of flood potential in our bathhouses yet. But it's not to say it's not coming.
Right,
'cause
right.
Tides do get higher.
Right. And I know that at Red River, on a full moon high tide, the water does get into the parking lot.
Yes.
And that's not a storm, that's just a full moon high tide.
So does that the outhouse that's in the Red River beach, does that have a septic tank, or does
Yes,
that pump
It's a
out?
pumped out tank.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a tight tank,
Yeah.
3,000 gallon tight tank.
Because if that got contaminated on the beach, it would be a lot of fecal matter in there, and
Would
bacteria
not be
would...
pretty, yeah.
No.
Yeah, they've had the shellfishing shut down there forever.
Yeah.
You can't take shellfish from that beach because there's too many fecal coliforms.
I suppose that's why they don't allow dogs to poop on the beach during the summertime or anything like that.
Now, that's mainly people don't step in it, but any fecal matter can
Well, isn't
contaminate.
dog fecal matter the same as bacteria as
We would
human?
hope they pick their stuff up,
Right. I mean,
except after their puppies.
yeah. But anyway, so the point being is that we have seen flooding at our beaches already.
Yes.
Maybe the buildings aren't floating away yet, but we know that it's, the parking lots are getting inundated. And I know in the wintertime when that happens and then it freezes, it's a mess. So, and a place like Red River Beach, it's about this wide already.
And we're getting no help from Boston, from our government, for major addressing those kinds of things?
Well, and this comes back to, trying to chase the money. We know there was a big federal infrastructure bill that got passed, but, when you're a little tiny town, you're not the first in line to get the check, that money will get allocated to states, and then the states will have to allocate it out to towns, and I'm not sure, I'm sure that our climate change bill that just got passed, I'm sure that they will tap into federal money in order to fund the
What I'm
net zero by
thinking-
2050, type of thing.
What I'm thinking, and I have a hard time articulating it, the Dutch people live in a lowland country, and they manage to live there and not being intoxicated by poop. So there must be a way, or there must be something that can be done when you're facing that kind of
Right.
flooding or
They-
major flooding.
They're like, adaptation on steroids. But even the Dutch know that their time is coming when even their engineering is not going to hold. But anyway,
Well, you could build seawalls all around the beach or something,
Right,
so.
it'd be like a castle.
Well,
No, but
there's
no
some
seawalls.
towns in
Seawalls are
the, there's some towns in the Midwest.
Yeah.
I've been out to Kentucky, they have these
Oh, right, the
great big
the
walls
levees, Yeah,
for flood control of the
Yeah.
Mississippi River,
yeah.
and they have these huge gates that they close up, and it goes up like 25 or 30 feet, and
Yeah.
it surrounds the entire town, so to
That's
protect.
wonderful, until the flood is 1 foot over the levee, and then you have a swimming pool. And the water just stays there. So the mitigation adaptation, it has to be something that is not gonna do more damage than good. And we're not gonna engineer ourselves out of this. We just have to retreat, basically, is what we're talking about. We have to put, retreat, and maybe like, instead of having a parking lot at the beach, maybe the town invests in parking elsewhere, and in the summer hires a little shuttle bus that just takes people from the parking to the beaches, and doesn't let people park there. So I think our goal is to probably talk to Joe Powers, see if we can get at least a demonstration electric vehicle program going, where we can get a couple electric vehicles, put up some charging stations in municipal lots. Schoolhouse would be a perfect place to have one, right by the Chamber of Commerce. And then I would think that we could work with Chamber of Commerce to talk to the large, why did Stop and Shop choose to put charging stations in Orleans parking lot? But there's not a single one in Harwich. Like,
That's a
what was the
very good
calculus?
point.
What was the calculus there?
Yes.
It's the same corporation, right? It's still Stop and Shop, but, so that, maybe we can investigate that, so,
Yeah, because we could use that charging there
yeah,
for
yeah.
our.
And even
tourists.
Shaw's or any, so,
Yeah.
municipal first, and then we can investigate, how do we encourage corporations like Shaw's, Stop and Shop, the big companies,
Mhm.
to also put them in their places. So good job on the buildings. I'm hoping we don't miss our 20% by so much that it's embarrassing.
What I've been told by Margaret is we're doing absolutely fine. We're doing very well.
At least we're trying.
I try, and I got very
Yeah.
concerned over
Yeah.
our newest building is our highest energy user,
What's the newest building?
the fire station too.
Oh, that's right, fire station.
Yeah, another one.
And why do you think that it ended up that way?
Radiant floor heating, and they have a VRF,
What is VR?
The heat pump?
the heat pump, variable refrigerant flow with multiple heads,
Okay.
and so it's trying to keep up in the winter months.
So we have a little,
I went and inspected both the harbor master and the new fire station when they were being built there. And I asked them for, what is it, an HRF, that's that whole house efficiency rating, and I got all that information from the harbor master, but I never got anything for that fire station down there. They didn't seem like they didn't had their head in the sand with it when they were doing it from an
I
energy
think you got
standpoint.
different priorities, the safety people tend,
I asked them if they were putting solar collectors on. They said they didn't even think about it. There were all kinds of questions like this, and I never got any answers from them on that.
well, you have that whole area right by the big flagpole there. Ground mount solar, which is perfect there. But anyway,
I've worked extensively with CPEC on trying to get solar here too, and there's a lot of pushback.
from the town, you mean? Yeah. Well,
Not my backyard if you want it, but not there.
right, we don't want to see it.
Right, exactly. Had a great parking lot, overhangs.
Canopy thing, yeah.
Canopy for the community center. One side was going to feed the community center. The other one was going to be public-private venture, basically sending it out to those in need.
Mhm.
And they got shut down.
By whom?
Well, it was a number of reasons. Primarily, it ended up, the contractor couldn't get done in the date that he had originally said, what I understand. But a lot of the abutters said, I don't like it, it's ugly. And we're complaining to the community, to the
Carport.
yeah, to the select.
But the old people would have loved it, because it would have covered their cars, and so that they were there
I loved it,
in the
exactly.
rain
The
or
rain, the snow, the
and-
sun.
you know,
Very
they,
short-sighted. I mean, it's a question of education, time.
so maybe that's our role. Maybe we need to get, you know, if there's only 4 of us, but maybe we need to this fall, let's plan some stuff at the community center, just start getting the word out and,
And how do we invite the people?
yeah, I guess we just plan something and set a date and be there. I mean, when
Larry was here.
when Larry was here, we had an energy fair, and we used the large room in the community center, and we had solar companies come and set up tables, and we had a Cape Light Compact there, and we had all kinds of energy people
That would
there.
be
And people came and, you know, walked around and picked up information, and it was, we had, in one of the small rooms, we had like a series of talks going on all day. I mean, I think people came. We didn't get hundreds of people, but people
No, of course
came,
not, but
you know,
it's a
but people
process.
came, you know.
Gradual.
And it's kind of similar to, you know, you end up preaching to the choir again, you know, because the people that came
Are
were
interested.
people who were already interested and probably already have been doing
Yeah, but
things.
those people talk to other people.
Right,
So
yeah.
I think it's a process.
Yeah,
A very
yeah.
tedious process.
Right,
but
yeah, it's a
but
process.
process.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anytime, if you
Okay.
have any questions or any
Okay.
information.
Terrific.
Terrific.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Could you send us a copy of that?
You can have this.
Oh,
It's online too, but you can have this one for,
So, who would talk to Shaw's and Stop and Shop? Like Cindy Williams or?
well,
How
wait,
would we
Cindy
want
Williams is she's the,
Chamber of Commerce?
Chamber of Commerce, what is her title? Like president. I mean, she's a paid person. She's like the, executive director. She's the executive director of the Chamber of Commerce. So she's a paid position. And her sole purpose in life is to promote Harwich business. Obviously, that's what chambers do, Chamber of Commerce.
Of course, but would I?
But she's very, very interested in all of this stuff.
So
Yeah.
is she the person who can, you know, do the walking for us, contacting Stop and Shop, or do we have to?
Well, we can talk to Cindy first, you know, and see if that's something that she thinks she could do, you know, because, I mean, obviously she's got a
Good,
lot.
or would be
Right.
willing?
Now, I know when we first started talking about these charging stations, she was very excited.
Okay,
Because she really believes that
yeah.
from an economic point of view, from a promoting Harwich as a destination point of
course,
view,
of
that it's a positive thing.
So,
Um,
so would you talk to her?
I know Cindy very well. I can talk to Cindy.
The church that I go to, this St. Peter's, they have all solar collectors all over the church. I don't know if you ever noticed them, it's on 137. And I was redoing the whole parking lot for them about 2 years ago, spending $98,000 out of a donation to do it. And they were talking about putting in charging stations in there in the church parking lot. And I was trying to suggest that they could just use our own power that we generate with all those collectors on there to power them. But apparently you're not allowed to do that. You have to go through Eversource, and they have to monitor it. It can't go directly from the output of the solar collectors into the.
Not if you're grid tied. If you're grid tied, you cannot do that. Now, if you,
What is great time?
you're still hooked up to the wires. Like, I'm assuming you did not cut your wires. You're still hooked up to Eversource, even though you
Oh,
don't,
absolutely.
you don't need them,
They
but,
buy
exactly.
my
Right.
extra.
right.
It's
So,
a very complicated.
I know, me
and
too, I have the same thing.
Yeah.
But here's, so.
Well, it got complicated, that's why
Yeah,
I'm trying to say, that you
exactly.
can't take the power
No.
from those solar
No.
collectors and power this electric charging station.
You could, as long as you didn't hook up the solar panels to anything on the grid. Like if you just built like ground-mounted solar and had that directly go to a charging station, bypassing the grid, you certainly could do that. And there are people that I've read about, like those solar canopies that have charging stations, and they're self-contained, like they're not hooked up to the grid. The solar energy charges up batteries.
But they have all electric power in that church, and they have these Mitsubishi
Yep, heat
units.
pumps, yeah.
And I think that they use their own power to run
But
these
they're still
things.
hooked up to the grid.
You know.
Yeah, so they still, they still get a bill from Eversource.
Well, they get a check from it, not a bill.
But they're still, in order to get that check, you have to be hooked up. If you wanted to be your own self-contained unit,
We
you can
haven't
do
gotten-
that. You can
We
do.
haven't gotten there.
Yeah,
yet.
you
I
could
think
do
we are
that.
married to Eversource because that's what Eversource wants.
Yeah, well, they don't really
Something-
want it. They don't want, I mean, they're having a hard time because the electric economy is surging ahead, and they haven't kept up the infrastructure to accommodate that. I mean, if everybody in Harwich had an electric car and we all plugged in at the same time, we could probably short out the whole system, I mean, we're not there yet as far as the grid is concerned, which is why Eversource often delays or drags their feet when they come to hook up a solar project.
Well, when is all this solar wind stuff, I mean, not solar wind, offshore?
Soon, I mean, they're already getting ready to.
When are they gonna start producing power?
Oh, not for about another couple of years, because.
So at that point in time, then, there's be plenty of power for electric vehicles, and so if they just plan for
A couple of years from now, yeah.
2 years down the road from here, there won't be any shortage of these. They are putting in all these new cables, I read the reports every week
Yeah.
in Hyannis underground there to bring the power
It's
into
coming, it's coming.
the substations there. So, I mean,
Alright,
they're
so-
setting the infrastructure up.
Yeah, it just, I think we are on the cusp, we are in that weird place where it's still trying to get settled, and it's like being committed to natural gas now for 20 years, there's nothing we can do about that. The town is not gonna vote to rip out perfectly good, high-efficiency gas boilers, so,
Yeah,
but that's good to know, it's good to know.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So we're going nowhere with electric vehicles in the town.
So far,
Yeah.
our next step is to talk to Joe Powers and
And-
encourage them to apply to the grant, which you can do right online. It's not a, so anyway, I will try to make an appointment with
So
him.
it doesn't sound like this is Sean's bailiwick.
He's only buildings.
So has to be somebody else that's doing with the automobiles or the vehicles.
Okay, and I think you're gonna find that Lincoln Hooper is very resistant to change
Well,
in general.
That was, you
Yeah.
weren't at the town meeting, but
Yeah,
she
no,
specifically
right.
asked him at the town meeting in
Right.
front of about 500 people, what are you doing with electric vehicles? And he was just stuttering, and some people were yelling out about the Ford Volt or Ford
Right.
Lightning or something like that, and he had no answer for anything.
Is he an older guy?
He kind of actually dismissed Jacqueline actually in her
Well, he
question.
had no other resource or recourse.
Right.
But to dismiss me.
He had no answer for you.
No.
All right, before we,
But she's pretty gutsy to get up there and ask
Yeah.
that question.
well, and I think we've got to keep asking it, and I think that, we've had people like Compact here, we've had Sean here, I think we need to, we had
I think we're
Steve back
making
here.
progress.
I think we're telling people, because obviously before Sean came, he talked to a lot of people and said he had to come to our meeting today. So the town, people that he talked to knows that we're asking these questions. And we may not be very many, but we can be annoying, so,
We're present.
exactly. So if we just keep being annoying and, because bureaucracies tend not to want to move, the inertia to do something different is.
We're a pain and.
Yeah, and it needs, they need incentives, but maybe we're gonna be the incentive for them to maybe look at other things.
So is it going to be part of our agenda then for the next meeting to invite Joe Powers here to discuss the purchase of electric vehicles in some
I
form
will
or
send
another?
him-
And
I
what
will
his plan is for the next 10 years to start purchasing some electric vehicles, and what, is it one a year?
And
Or is it one every 10 years, or one every 50 years?
And also to help us, you know, with giving us some oxygen, how we can move on, or how can we get help to get grants.
Right. So he has to get the grants.
Yeah.
He has to apply for them. He has to fill out those forms.
But I'm
We
sure
can't do
that's
it.
a
But you
lot
know,
of
the
work,
other-
so if we are paying
Yeah,
for
but
them, that
if-
would be very helpful.
But if we get too much resistance, another thing that we can do is sit in the community center and have like a citizens, like sign-up sheet, like, are you in favor of the town buying electric vehicles? And gather some names and bring it in and say, this is how many people are interested in electric vehicles. I mean, I think that, hopefully we don't have to do that.
Yes.
But,
So we're going to become a political action group.
right, well, climate action is in our title.
Okay.
So, I mean, action implies that you do something, right?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Any questions, any problems with the minutes? Again, excellent job, Charlie. We have to pass them so he can email them. Roseanne didn't have any questions about it either.
Well, I think I fixed all the
Yeah,
comments.
everything looks good, you know. All in favor of accepting the minutes, say aye.
Yes.
Aye. Minutes are
Aye.
accepted. You can write down, you can send them on, Charlie.
Well, what about the videos, though? You said you were going to report about that.
My report is what Roseanne told me. She has yet to get in
I
touch
thought
with
she was a
somebody.
pusher type person. I mean,
She hasn't been able to reach the person she needs to talk to.
well, maybe she needs to go visit them. I mean, pound on the door and...
But she doesn't drive, so,
She doesn't drive?
no.
Oh, I didn't know that. Isn't it right here?
It's at the community center.
Yeah, she lived right here. She
But
lives right here.
Isn't the person she's trying to contact right here?
Yeah, I mean, it's walking distance.
To-
Her
to-
house and
She's at Pine Oaks, right?
it's right next to the school here.
Oh, she's over there, okay. Pine Oaks too.
So she can't walk over here and talk to them?
Yeah,
Today she was
I don't
It-
think so.
Where is this channel 18? Is it here?
It's in the community building.
Oh,
center.
community
It's in the
center.
community center, which is
Yeah.
not far from where she lives.
Oh, she can walk up that
3
street.
minutes walk.
Yeah.
Tell her to
No,
walk
no,
up
it's
there.
not- It's not the lack of car the issue. I don't know. I mean.
Take,
the
take,
lack of
tell her
follow-up,
tell her to
let's-
get a bicycle and bike up
I
there.
think she's having a hard time.
She doesn't bike? She
Yeah.
should be saving energy by biking.
I think she's having a hard time connecting with the actual person that has the authority to authorize that these videos go
I'll
on.
ask her if she.
Maybe you could follow up with that.
Yes,
Just-
yeah, I'll ask her if she
just
wants
call
me to
her.
help you.
Yeah, because you can call her anyway because she's not feeling well. You can call to ask her how she is and then ask her about that. I have no new information from Cape Light Compact. Our meeting is next week. There's nothing new. There is that Main Streets program, but that's pretty well under control with the Chamber of Commerce. We had Sean. Roseanne said that the person that she mentioned before as being wanting to join apparently has filled out the paperwork.
And who is this
What's
person?
it, what, can we put the person's name in here?
I'm trying to find the email. No, I can't find the email, but she says that, you know, he has filled out the paperwork.
It's a
He
guy.
couldn't come- He was gonna come today, but he had a conflict.
It's a guy.
It's a guy, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you could email me his name, huh?
Yeah, as soon as I
Can I
find
put
it,
it in the
yeah.
minutes or not?
Why can't
Am I allowed to do that?
I can't find that email. Anyway, so, just say we are hoping to, get a new member. I'll try to get you that name. I'll email, or if you want to just email Roseanne directly and just ask her for the name of the person that wants to join, and then you can put it in there.
What happened with your husband there with that?
He's still thinking about it. He's getting hip replacement surgery this fall, so, you know, it looks like that he's gonna be tied up medically speaking. So I think we're just back to looking for somebody else for that.
Why does he need a new hip? Is it hurt?
Yeah, oh yeah, he can barely walk.
Oh, really? 'Cause my hip, when I lay on the side, sometimes it hurts just in bed, but it doesn't hurt when I'm walking.
Yeah, he can barely walk.
Oh.
So Roseanne says so I think we're moving along on the new committee member, but email her and say, just give you the name so you can get it in the minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, Valerie, sometimes I ask Roseanne to add it to our I'm not feeling okay, you know.
Agenda?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
In order to.
What do you mean you're not feeling okay?
I'm feeling strange. I'm feeling odd. I don't know what's wrong with me.
You're not being like that radio or TV announcer who was getting a stroke or something, right?
I don't think so.
Do you feel any tingling or anything? Or is the side of your face going funny?
Smile.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. Anyway, so let us keep us
But
posted.
the point,
Yeah.
my point is that I have difficulty having support to do follow-up. We need to do a lot. For example, this woman, Maria Marasco,
Mhm.
and what she told us about.
Yeah, she
I
has.
sent an email
Mhm.
giving Roseanne to please add it to our agenda, and it didn't happen.
Okay, well, we'll have to, let's put that on, I'll make sure that gets on the agenda for next time, it's just
Okay.
follow up.
What is it? What is it you want me to? Maria, where is it?
It's Maria Marasco is the woman who taught us about.
Yeah, I know that,
CBEC.
but I mean,
But-
what is it?
but It was so brief, the terminology was something that she understood, but I wanted to revisit the whole thing and make sure that we do proper follow-up.
Revisit what part of it? Did I?
The SWEC.
CVEC.
Or the CVEC presentation that she made.
Oh.
What do we make of that?
Well,
Nothing.
I think what we make of it is they're not doing anything right now. So they're on a pause. So there are no new projects. She told us about the projects that had been completed. They're not doing anything new right now, and that they would get back to us when they are. So I think there's really nothing to follow up there because there's nothing going on. They're not taking any new projects, they're not doing
And why
anything
is
new.
that?
They had change in leadership, and I think they had some problems with some contractors. Remember she talked about that?
That was in Yarmouth, right?
Yeah.
It's good. Remember they wanted us to join in that with that the
Yeah, we
collector
didn't.
thing?
Thank God we didn't. Yeah. No, that's a separate thing. CVEC was not involved with the Yarmouth. That was Solarized Yarmouth. That's a whole separate thing.
But they wanted us to get involved with
Yes,
that.
it was, yeah, but that's not CVEC. CVEC is totally different. So I think we should, I think we give CVEC a rest for the time being,
Okay,
because they're not doing anything right now.
okay.
I think probably the most important thing is to find somebody to be our rep to CVEC. I mean, I could do it this year, but, I'm not going anywhere this winter, so I could, but I don't know if I could do it for the long
about Jacqueline?
haul.
You want to be the rep?
If you,
Just for a year until her husband gets ready.
well, I mean, you may be interested in doing it. I mean, you may, it may be a great learning experience if you are interested. I mean that.
Can she do that and still be on this committee?
Absolutely, yeah.
What would be the requirements? What would it require,
Somebody that goes to meetings. and
Somebody,
writes down.
remember, there's only like 2 meetings a year or something like that, so there's
and
not very many.
Okay, and
Yeah.
in terms of preparation,
Well,
education,
It's gonna be like this, but a lot more, you know, because it's reading contracts and, you know, looking at RFPs and awarding contracts and following up on contracts and stuff like that. Now, because you're on the board, you're just overseeing the staff. So that there is trained staff that knows how to do this.
so I would have people to whom I could ask questions.
Exactly.
Then yes.
All right, so
If I can have something to ask
yeah,
questions,
you apply just the same way as you apply for this one.
okay.
It'll go to the Board of Selectmen and.
You
you'll
have
get
to go to the
appointed.
board, they have to approve you, and then
Yeah,
you
yeah,
can
it's
go to
the
this
same thing
stuff.
as this, same
You
thing.
have to have an interview like you had here. You remember all that?
Of course I do.
Yeah, so it would be, but they only have a couple of meetings a year, so it's not like you have to go every month, you know, type of thing. So yeah, that'd be
And
great.
put on there that they don't have a representative right now, and they need one, and it's been vacant for a long
Expedite it.
time, and that we need to get on the ball and do this quickly, okay?
All right, so I think that's, next meeting, here's the problem I have. I cannot do a daytime meeting in October because they changed my days off to Saturday and Sunday. Just for October. I'll be done at the end of October and then I'm free
Okay.
for months. So if we want to have a meeting in October, we're probably going to have an evening meeting.
Okay. Do you have a problem, Charlie?
I'm leaving about October 15th, so as long as
It's
it isn't the
before-
it isn't the day that I'm leaving, I'll be able to either call in or be in attendance.
Right.
But if you make it the day that I'm leaving, then
Understand.
you're going to have to get somebody else to take the meetings.
What about the 13th, so you're still here?
What day are you actually leaving?
I don't know exactly which day, but it's somewhere around the 15th. Yeah.
So if we meet on the 13th, we would be okay?
Why don't you get back to us?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
of course.
October
You have to
13th,
tell-
that's a Thursday.
So it would be tentative.
Right, and how about would you prefer 6:30 or 7?
6:30.
6:30, okay, 6:30 PM. So let's make that our tentative, and then Charlie, you get back to us, okay? If we have to move it up, we could have it earlier.
Or at 3 o'clock via Zoom without Charlie. Or Charlie
Well,
via Zoom.
if I'm in transit driving to North Carolina, I'm not going to be able to get any
No,
Zoom or anything
no,
like
And
that.
we-
And out.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that'll be
and
out.
Zoom is, we will keep doing it by phone.
I just call it by
yeah,
phone.
yeah.
I've done that before.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
The
And
Zoom is,
It's worked out,
yeah.
Oh, by phone, you're right.
yeah,
By
it's
phone.
worked out. It's worked
Super
out.
practical.
But I'm not going to do it while I'm driving, and I'm
No,
not going
no,
to take the
we-
notes while I'm driving either.
We don't expect that. So we have a tentative time, and if we want to go back to daytime, we can, starting in November.
That's a Thursday then, huh?
It is. And we're adjourning at
The
4:10.
only problem is I'm allergic to 13.
Oh,
You're allergic